Steel Ball Run is often cited as the best part of Jojo, or even as a great manga in its own right, being spoken in the same sphere as titles like Berserk, Hunter x Hunter, and even Vagabond. It also has some of the best mini arcs ever shown in manga, with stuff like The True Man's World, Break My Heart, Break Your Heart Parts 1 and 2, and the well and beautifully drawn final fight between Valentine and Gyro, happily named Ball Breaker. Now, as we all know, all the way till part 6, Jojo's art style had been consistently changing with each part, and the changes were very much noticeable, as we see Araki go from the more bulky and bodybuilder style for his characters to a much more smaller and less muscly build for his characters. However, the one thing that remained were the way he drew noses, the definition in the cheekbones, and the model-like poses that each of his characters do. And these big changes happened during part 3, the Stardust Crusaders arc, part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, and part 5, Golden Wind. Now the question is, why the change? Well, as you can imagine, for a series like Jojo running well past over 30 years and with 957 chapters, there are gonna be major changes Araki had to make just to keep up with the times and still look appealing not only for the fans but for the new readers as well. He also mentions this in an interview. I also have the protagonist function to symbolize the world that each part takes place in, so the story influences them as well. Of course, I also don't want to hinder the evolution of the art itself. This just reinforces the fact that the reason he changes the art throughout the series is to also not lose interest with what he's creating, or even feel limited to just one art style for the series. And with Steel Ball Run, I can definitely see that entire idea of keeping things fresh come to fruition once more after finishing the first universe parts 1 through 6. It's a story about a boy who's lost his use in his legs due to past actions which he constantly regrets. That boy going by the name Johnny Joestar, and he enters the Steel Ball Run race in search of regaining the ability to walk and live a normal life like he used to. It's a really original story that's set in a western setting, where each region Johnny gets himself into, whether it be desert, mountainous, or even snowy, it's beautifully drawn in double page spreads, which we see Araki use more often in part 7 compared to earlier parts. A story that is filled with themes of parenthood, patriotism, and loyalty are explored in a mature way that's never really been seen before in the series, complemented with some of the best artwork I've ever seen in comics in general. At its lowest point, the art is very much carried over from the crazy and insane story that part 6 was, with very exaggerated lips, cartoonish looks to the character, and overall rougher, harder lines in the beginning of the story. But when the art is at its best, we get much more lifelike characters with the use of shadows and cross-hatching that give it a more realistic look. The eyes are more realistically shaped, the lips, eyebrows, and noses are drawn in a way that can be compared to Renaissance art that captures the human anatomy perfectly. Araki creates lively and borderline attractive action set pieces that you can see perfectly what's going on in each panel, something that other parts sometimes fail at and can sometimes be confusing for the reader or myself. The interesting thing about part 7's artwork is somewhere around the middle between chapters 32 to 61, which I call the transition phase. During this portion of the story, Araki's art seems to be a combination of his old style with his new style, acting as almost a transformation phase for when Araki finally gives in and masters his new style for the story moving forward, where we had less realistic looking characters in the beginning of the story to having a mixture of the old and new in the middle. We start to reach the third act or final act of Steel Ball Run, and we have a new and more refined art style that definitely helps elevate the experience for the reader for the better. We get way more cooler up close shots for characters, emotions are much better communicated with this new style that Araki was able to come up with. Double page spreads look more detailed and stellar than they ever were before. He gives a much more softer look to the characters that works really well. Where Araki felt limited in part 6, in Steel Ball Run you can see how he was able to reinvent himself and use techniques he's always used before, from classical techniques in paintings and sculptures to the watercolor manipulation of Paul Gauguin. All of these together help create visually engaging characters and a world for the story that is being told in Steel Ball Run. There's one other thing I noticed from another interview from Araki is that when he was asked about what inspiration he had in creating Johnny, he had this to say: "My work centers around protagonists who grow as they overcome hardship. In creating Johnny, I didn't necessarily set out to depict a hero with a disability. He was the end result of my pursuit to create a character who could grow both physically and mentally." And what I'm trying to get at here is that Araki definitely accomplished this, not only with Johnny but with his art as well. As we see Johnny go through his personal journey and become more determined with the end result of getting his old life back, we also see Araki's art embark on a journey side by side with Johnny, with the end result reaching this point where the artwork reaches new heights that's never been seen before since Diamond is Unbreakable. Araki's current part, Jojolian, or Jojo Part 8, is about to culminate next month. However, you can see a dip in the way Araki used to draw the characters and environments when he finished Steel Ball Run and started the beginning of Part 8. Now, the current art style in Part 8 isn't bad by no means, but it looks like a step down from what we got before. And I honestly hope that if we do get a Part 9, Araki can reinvent himself once more and reach the artistic peak that he achieved in Steel Ball Run. And hopefully, he does. Thanks for watching. This was a last minute idea and I really got inspired by Alex's video talking about the artistic evolution of Vagabond. He's a great YouTuber, so if you want, you can check him out sometime. And yeah, since no one really talked about in depth about Steel Ball Run's art before, I decided, hey, let me give it a try. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you want. Leave the bell notifications on to get notified for a new video. And I'll talk to you cowboys later or in the next video. Peace.